welcome to another exciting edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Audrey Williams. As summer winds down, now's the perfect time to squeeze in one last adventure, whether it's a trip to the beach or a visit to your favorite cultural site. But don't wait too long, because as the first hints of autumn start to appear, students, parents, and teachers will be shifting their focus to the upcoming school year. On that note, we've got a great package lined up for you today. We dive into some valuable tips for building homes in a tropical climate, especially important during this season. Plus, we'll explore how the Ministry of Education is progressing with Trend, transforming education through national development, and much more. So, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the news.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Friday, August 23, 2024. Government, through the Ministry of Health and Wellness, has heightened surveillance at Jamaica's ports of entry and health facilities as it works to prevent or manage an mpox outbreak in the country. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton gave the update during a press briefing on Thursday.
This means that we will increase messaging at our ports, and we will interview travelers who have visited countries of interest in the last 6 months. Anyone with symptoms will be treated according to our protocols. Persons without symptoms will be issued health alert cards and told to contact the health department if they develop symptoms.
As at Thursday, August 22, the Ministry of Health is reporting that there are still no cases of mpox in the country. But Dr. Tufton stresses that surveillance is being increased to allow for contact tracing to break chains of human-to-human transmission and stop a possible outbreak.
The reality is that we do expect the risks because of the openness of our borders, the normalness of travel and international travel, and of course the interaction with persons from far and wide. Surveillance is critical, therefore, at this time to rapidly identify cases, and by extension with each case the clusters, in order to provide optimal clinical care, isolate cases to prevent further transmission, identify, manage, and follow up contacts to recognize early signs of infection.
The heightened surveillance activities are also designed to protect frontline workers, identify risk groups, and tailor effective control and prevention measures. Mpox is a rare disease that is similar to smallpox and can be transmitted by contact and droplet exposure. On August 14, the World Health Organization declared the disease a public health emergency of international concern. Due to the public health risks associated with a single case of Mpox, members of the public are urged to take the necessary precautions to safeguard themselves. These include safe sexual practices, physical distancing, mask wearing, and frequent hand sanitization. For more information on Mpox, please contact your parish health department or call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. Improved water and road infrastructure are coming for the residents of Fairfield St. James by Christmas. The National Water Commission (NWC) is in the process of installing an upgraded 8-inch ductile iron pipeline from Fairfield Avenue to Fairfield Tank. This will improve water supply delivery to about 9,000 residents from Fairfield Irwin, Cashew Grove, and Tucker Avenue.
These pipes were obviously meant to be changed many decades ago. However, we have now the financial capacity and space to do this project. So the works behind us will cost some $47 million, and pipes have been pulled from the NWC stores of pipes, which would carry the value of the project somewhere above $70 million when complete.
The minister with responsibility for water says this will serve as a precursor for a team from the National Works Agency to begin road rehabilitation in the area.
The NWA has already completed the procurement of the roadworks where the pipes are being laid, and once this is complete within 3 months, immediately after, that work will start. Contractor has already been approved and contract work is complete.
The Ministry of Local Government and Community Development will be providing 5,000 hurricane straps to residents of Rocky Point in Clarendon. This is to aid in the rebuilding of houses following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. The straps will be delivered through the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, and the Clarendon Municipal Corporation.
Rocky Point was severely affected. Almost every roof down there went. And we launched a program with the ODPEM where we are providing hurricane straps. We did a significant amount of that in St. Elizabeth, where we are providing hurricane straps for persons who are in the process of putting on their roofs.
The local government minister gave the assurance during a ceremony in Clarendon Tuesday to present 3 residents with new homes under the ministry's indigent housing program. Turning to another matter, he says the ministry is paying close attention to bills being received from the Jamaica Public Service Company for streetlights since the hurricane. The local government ministry has oversight and financial responsibility for streetlights.
I have advised the ministry and the municipal corporations that we must pay attention to the bills that the GAPS will be sending for street lights, because we can't be paying the same bill and more when several communities are without street lights. And this is something that we are going to be monitoring, because we are not going to pay for services that is not there.
He adds that the Youth Summer Employment Program YSEP workers are being utilized to do assessments of electricity poles in the communities that were hardest hit by Beryl. The education sector will not be inundated with teachers from overseas. Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams gave that assurance on Wednesday in a bid to allay concerns regarding the government's plans to recruit foreign teachers for the island's schools. She explains that the move is to urgently fill existing gaps in the sector, adding that the decision was not a unilateral one.
When we look at the new teachers coming into the system, there are gaps in certain subject areas. We went around, we spoke to principals, we talked about the option, and they expressed an interest in having such an option available to them. So it's not as if we're going to be inundating the sector.
The Education Minister was addressing the Jamaica Teachers Association's 60th annual conference held at the Ocean Coral Spring Resort in Trelawney. She also pointed out that the sector has had a long history of utilizing educators from other countries.
In our education system, ladies and gentlemen, over many, many decades, we have had teachers from other countries in our classrooms. It's more of a surgical insertion for those gaps that I know we need to fill from our own system, but it will take some time to do.
And finally, Jamaica and Brazil have entered into a groundbreaking agreement to facilitate cooperation in boosting tourism resilience. The Jamaica-based Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center and Brazil's Ministry of Tourism have signed a memorandum of understanding towards this. The agreement was formalized during a ceremony in Sao Luis, Brazil, earlier this week. It seeks to equip stakeholders with the tools to navigate future challenges and build a more resilient tourism industry. The areas of cooperation under the MOU include climate, entrepreneurial, security, and pandemic resilience in tourism. Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett says the partnership will also see the establishment of a Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Satellite Center at the University of San Luis. The establishment of this satellite center is to take place in September 2024, coinciding with the G20 Tourism Ministers meeting. In the meantime, Minister Bartlett and his Brazilian counterpart have also begun discussions on securing full air connectivity between Jamaica and Brazil and strengthening tourism collaboration. The Brazilian government has reportedly expressed its willingness to offer incentives to airlines operating this route, a significant step towards enhancing connectivity and facilitating travel between the two countries. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
How am I going to go to college? I can't find anybody to stand security for me. I mean, I could ask my aunt, but she's likely not going to want to do it. Let me ask her just in case. Auntie, do you know if anybody I could use to stand as guarantor for my student loan? I'm really struggling here.
Hey sis, what are you stressing about now?
Time is winding down and I need to find someone to stand as guarantor for my student loan. But everyone I ask can't seem to do it, and I don't know what to do now.
So hold on. You didn't know that the Students' Loan Bureau doesn't require a guarantor for the loan application?
Are you serious? That's amazing.
Yes! Effective April 1, 2024, the Students' Loan Bureau no longer requires applicants to have guarantors. This applies to all SLB loan products. With SLB, you can make your dreams a reality. Visit our website at slbja.com for more details and follow all our social media platforms to be in the loop.
Building a sturdy home that can withstand natural disasters is crucial, especially in regions like ours that are prone to hurricanes, earthquakes, and floods. Our next feature will provide a few guidelines to creating a disaster-resilient home in a hot climate.
Living on an island where the climate can shift dramatically from scorching heat to sudden downpours and the occasional natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes, and knowing how to design our homes is more crucial than ever. Each site, whether on flat land or mountainous terrain, presents unique challenges that emphasize the importance of tailored, site-specific architectural solutions that cannot be overstated. In a recent discussion with an architect, Conrad Jackson, we delved into the complexities of designing buildings that harmonize with their specific environments. And according to Mr. Jackson, effective design begins with choosing the right materials and adapting to local conditions. Weather is among the conditions to be considered when building. For Jamaica, heavy rainfall is a significant concern at different times of the year. Mr. Jackson makes the point that the initial step in the design process involves knowing the environment in which you are building.
As it relates to heavy rainfall, once you start doing your investigation as a consultant to go onto a particular site, one of the things you do is you interview the locals and you also do your research for the type of activities that would have taken place within the last 100 years as it relates to climate change, the impacts of flooding, and how the impact of climate change and the increase in the sun and the intensity of the sun for the specific year.
To combat rising temperatures, insulation plays a crucial role. It's recommended to insulate wooden walls with materials such as foam or creating air cavities with concrete blocks to significantly reduce heat transfer. In addition, incorporating cross ventilation and shading devices helps to minimize direct heat gain. For homes near the coast, where rising sea levels and salt corrosion pose risks, selecting the right materials is essential.
You need to use those particular materials to mitigate against the salt corrosive nature of the environment. So for argument's sake, for a door, you'd probably be using aluminum hinges or brass hinges or brass hardware or nickel type finish stuff that you would not necessarily have to use inland.
When it comes to hurricane-prone regions, the choice of roofing is critical. Mr. Jackson describes a roofing solution called a standing seam.
So what that is a corrugated type of sheeting that has a seam that's about 1.5 inches tall. Which is also that 1.5 inches tall seam is specially crimped, and it is all actually screwed down to the rafters and the sacking that is underneath that sheeting to give it stability in case of a hurricane. The seam itself is so tall that the amount of water that will capture on a roof between the run from the peak of the roof, the highest point, to the eave of the roof, that the water will not build up and pass the height of that seam. The sheeting that would be used in that case can also be cut specific to the length of the roof, which means that if you consider old-time zinc roof, they came in particular lengths because it could only be transported on charter trucks and it was easier to handle. But the roofing material now, which I'm suggesting, which is standing seam, can be cut at the specific length of this roof.
For existing structures with zinc roofs, Mr. Jackson recommends adding fiberglass insulation between rafters.
As it relates to heat and the roof, you can get roof sheeting that is also insulated with foam embedded in it, as well as there are numerous things that can be done. You can put in fiberglass insulation in between the rafters, which will help to minimize the heat gain between the rafters, the ceiling, and the occupant of that space. So it acts as a buffer then, and it acts the same way it does as the foam, sprayed on foam like you see on the exterior of some of these buildings. It really just helps to slow down the heat transfer from the exterior to the interior of the space.
Ultimately, as Mr. Jackson stresses, it's important to remember that a house is one of your biggest investments.
Real estate in general, for most persons, when you're going to be doing this, choose wisely. Use registered professionals who can help you fulfill your dream and make this dream become a reality in the right way.
Are you a PATH or Wards of the State applicant? Then this video is for you. Guess what? You are not required to pay an application fee. And you automatically receive or granted aid of $60,000 upon your application submission for a targeted loan. For more SLB info, follow us on all social media platforms.
Thank you for staying with us. Our next feature will shine a spotlight on one of the key areas of focus within the Ministry of Education's Trend initiative, transforming education through national development. Specifically, we'll be exploring Pillar 3, teaching, curriculum, and teacher training. Let's see the initiatives that are set to make an impact in the upcoming school years.
Transforming Education for National Development Trend is being implemented by the Ministry of Education and Youth and is focused on positioning Jamaica to become a more globally competitive nation. One of the 7 pillars that will guide the sector's change is teaching, curriculum, and teacher training. This guide underscores the critical need for continuous training, mentorship, and support for educators. By investing in their professional growth, the ministry aims to elevate teaching practices, thereby improving student outcomes and driving the nation's educational advancement.
When we think about Pillar 3, we recognize that whatever the curriculum is promoting, our teaching should be consistent with that. And it means as well that if we're helping people to grow, to develop, to implement the curriculum, we must be on the same page as well when it comes to teacher preparation. This is why when we think about Pillar 3, we should pay attention to the persons who are involved. So we see here we have parents and we have content coming from different individuals, we have educators, we have the learners. And we're seeing that at the core of all of this when it comes to teaching and learning is the actual interaction of people as well as what happens with our curriculum. Based on the evaluation of the education system, there are about 4 major recommendations that I would love for us to consider. And you can use an acronym to deal with that. The acronym, if we're making use of our cognitive strategies, NCCS. N is about our national philosophy for education. The recommendation was that it be learner-centered. The learner is at the core of everything that we're doing. Now, I want us to consider ourselves too as learners, because when you are actually participating in professional development activities, you become a learner. Curriculum implementation is basically about us changing. So if we have a new curriculum, it is about a new way of teaching. We are being exposed professionally to opportunities to change how we teach. We have to now be checking if what we're doing is leading to the change. We need to work as a community, we need to be more integrative in our approach to teaching, and we should pay attention to our culture and the aesthetics. Moving forward, we're depending on you to be promoters of our national philosophy. We're also opening up the door to you. We're saying, guys, just look out for the call in terms of reviewing the curriculum so you can be a part of that process. We're also working at developing a co-curricular framework, and you will also be integral to this process. Capacity building, we're going to treat learner-centeredness intentionally in light of the gap that you would have spoken about, you would have indicated. And again, we're going to ensure that our policies are ready, our policies are consistent with our national philosophy. So as we move forward, I'm just encouraging everybody to let's get on board. Basically, under God, I pledge that I'm going to follow through in light of Pillar 3.
Children are the future, and ensuring our future is healthy requires that children are always provided with nutritious foods to grow well and live long. Unhealthy diets high in sugar, salt, and fat consumed by children may make them obese and prone to non-communicable diseases later in life. Healthy foods and beverages not only help them learn better, but also protects them from non-communicable diseases such as some cancers, diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular diseases in their childhood and adult life. So, whether it's at home, in the lunch bag, or at school, let's make healthy foods and beverages for our children the only rule. Parenting during the toddler years is both challenging and rewarding. This stage is characterized by rapid physical and cognitive development, which can sometimes lead to emotional outbursts. How should parents navigate this critical period? Our next feature will provide some essential guidelines.
Can be very frustrating, and a lot of times people don't feel like they really have an answer to everything, and the truth is that that is the reality. But there are different things that people can try. We're not saying that any one thing works for everybody or that you'll even get the outcome that you want immediately, especially when you're dealing with young children. You might have to try something several times before you see a particular result. So for example, If it is that you want a child to learn the difference between right and wrong, a lot of times in the past we use pain to teach that this is wrong, right? But we find that ultimately when you hit a child, what you're teaching them to do is when I don't like something, I should hit and I should lash out. What you want to try in a situation like that, you can try removing privileges. If there are things that the child might love to do, or even the age-old timeout, you know, where you say, listen, for this period, you have to sit by yourself, there's no communication, there's no talking, sit down and be still. Sometimes you have to physically just hold your child and help them to breathe through it, because you have some children where they have so much emotion and so much anger and they want to get it out, that it's really difficult for them to regulate it at such a young age. And so you have to physically hold them, put your hand on them, help them to breathe through it until they're calm. And with children, even if they don't understand necessarily the big concepts of right and wrong, they can sometimes understand tone, right? And tone is not the same thing as lashing out and using certain words and calling them different names. Tone is being firm and saying, I do not want you on this. So for example, if a child keeps going up on something, you might have to take them off it 10 times, right? And continue to reinforce with the same tone and consistency that you do not want them on this. And also for younger children, sometimes you have to be the one to remove whatever it is that you don't want them to interact with from the environment, right? Because they're so young and so impulsive, you can't necessarily leave it to them to understand I shouldn't touch this thing, right? So that's how we deal with the younger children.
Did you know that finding out your blood type can reduce your risk of getting the wrong blood type during emergency operations or surgeries? Let you know if you're at a higher risk for certain diseases, like knowing that persons with type AB, A and B blood have higher risks for blood clots. And if you have a rare blood type, you could decide to store your blood for future use so you don't have to wait hours or days to find a match. So what are you waiting for? Find out your blood type today. It can not only help to save your life, but also the lives of others.
As they say, school just around the corner, and the excitement and anticipation are rich in the air. Today, JIS is hitting the streets of Mandeville to get an inside but outer road look at how parents and students are gearing up for back to school.
I would say I'm about 90% ready. The uniforms, the books, most of the books that were available have been purchased. So I would say I'm about 90% ready.
Out of 100, say 90% ready. I made my preparations from early, so it wasn't a problem.
We are almost there. We have a few patches left. We have already completed our review of policies. We have already prepared our classrooms. They were painted this week. And just a few desks and chairs to be screwed up, and that will be done for the remainder of this week. So by next week, into September 2nd, everything should be in place.
I'm ready to see my friends and go back to the education because, yard is boring, so I'm fully ready.
We've reached the end of our program. Get a recap of everything you saw here and more on our website, jis.gov.jm. I'm Audrey Williams. Bye for now.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.